Hi, everybody. Steve Tarter, another edition of Tarter Sauce here at the Journal Star, Peoria Journal Star, I should say, Peoria, Illinois. With me today, back again by popular demand, Mr. Sam Kherat, adjunct robotics professor at Bradley University. Welcome, Sam.
Well, thank you very much.
We love talking to you. I always think back to one of the first, no, it wasn't the first conversation because Sam reminded me, you were at Caterpillar.
Yes.
When they ran the DARPA, let you give the acronym there, Grand Challenge. This is going back to like 2003, 2004.
Started, right?
When Caterpillar, and you were working at Caterpillar at the time, autonomous vehicles driving through the Mojave Desert, wasn't it?
Correct. Yeah.
And it was a kind of a race. The Defense Department was there. Yep. I know I covered it for the paper. I was talking to this guy, and years later he said, well, you remember? We talked about that. And I go, but, well, I didn't remember, but I should have because Sam is fascinating. But then we met over at Starbucks at Campus Town, and while all the kids around us, the Bradley students I'm talking about, are in their little headphones and their laptops, here's Sam gesturing and talking and acting the professor. So I really enjoy that and enjoy you being here. Sam, I gave a little snapshot of your past. Caterpillar, how long at Caterpillar?
Oh, just about 19 and a half, just about 20, less than 20 years.
Less than 20 years. And then you went to Pittsburgh Carnegie Mellon.
No, that's with Caterpillar.
With Caterpillar.
Yes.
So
this is after the win with the Grand
the
Challenge.
Autonomous Challenge.
Autonomous without DARPA, which you mentioned earlier, stands for Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. They're part of the Department of Defense. Back in 2001-2, they had the need to save soldiers' lives in the battlefield. So that's what prompted them to create this potential autonomous convoying type of operations. And so they created the challenge, like you said, in the being able to build a vehicle able to go 150 miles or so in unpaved type of conditions.
Right.
So the idea is to mimic the route between Baghdad and Kirkuk, where they had a lot of convoying operations. These convoys are susceptible to enemy fire, and they cannot fire back because they're transporting goods.
The battle scene was Iraq at that time.
So yes. And but the challenge actually happened in 2004, where no one could go more than 3 miles out of 150. The technology was not really there.
Still coming.
It was still coming, but it took only 18 months for DARPA to set up the Grand Challenger number 2, in which 5 finished.
All 150 miles.
150 miles. So you see some sort of a kind of a Moore's law when it comes to, because the missing component in autonomous driving was this perception system, which is the ability of a robot to sense its surroundings. And back then, some of the issues in 2004 was the inability to start because there was like a little bush that seemed to be a insurmountable obstacle to some of the participants. But the technology actually went leaps in just about 18 months, and we saw 5 finishers. But the granddaddy of all was the Urban Challenge, which is really a 50-mile type of.
When was that?
This was in 2007, and again 6 finishers.
And where was that
Caterpillar.
held?
That was held in Victorville, California, which was an old Air Force base.
But you're driving on roads.
You're driving on roads, and you have manual drivers, and those manual drivers are professional drivers, just for the sake of the testing and the challenge itself. But they had to manage traffic situations, intersections, and manual drivers and all that. 6 finished that race. We won it.
Caterpillar again won it.
Caterpillar again with Carnegie Mellon University, and that's what set the stage for us to be in Pittsburgh for a while. So I spent 4 years managing the Pittsburgh Automation Center, which led to many of the solutions adopted by the corporation since then.
Was there, Sam? Was there the feeling then? I mean, you're talking about people who are scientists or researchers, engineers, so forth, that autonomous cars were the wave of the future?
Well, it's always in the back of our mind. I mean, whether we're like it, there is this lack of social acceptance just because we compel when it comes to human errors. But we're always reluctant to admitting that a machine could have the same level of intelligence as a human, but when you look at
more,
but when you look at the numbers, it's increasing, and we see a lot of issues in a shared infrastructure. And so many of the users have break laws, and they have their own definitions of things. So how do you reevaluate the situation, and how do you move into a safer mean of transportation? And I think DARPA has created the setting that would allow us to come up with a better way to transport people and goods.
Now we'll just cut to the present or near present. Just recently, there was a fatality out in Arizona with the Uber self-driving car. I think there was somebody in the car, but now that's been carried by the media, I guess depending on which story you look at, as something that may slow down the self-driving car movement, or how do you look at that?
Well, it could, but see, like I said, the media and most people are compelling when it comes to human error, and so what's missing in that picture is that like on the percent, the fatalities, when it comes to fatalities, okay? For example, in 2016, there were over 34,000 fatalities
in the
United States.
Motor vehicle related.
Motor vehicle related, 99% are due to human errors, and this is done in the NSTHB type of data statistics. Worldwide, it's 1.3 million
a year.
Now, if you want to put a perspective to that, okay.
That's a lot. 1.3 million. So they're dying all over the world.
Well, here's you could put it in this perspective. For example, the equivalence in fatalities is just like having a fatal 737 crash every single hour.
Oh.
Okay, so that gives you so if we had that in the United States, it's one 737 per day.
Oh my!
So that's the
equivalent.
The equivalent. So if you put it in that perspective, so if that happens, also 737s will be grounded.
Yeah.
When it comes to the fatalities, now every human life is precious, no question. But the same time, when we saw that Waymo fatality, 145 or thereabouts at the same time lost their life.
Or around the country.
Around the country.
In other motor vehicle accidents.
Exactly.
Created by speeding or whatever.
In motor vehicle or texting, whatever.
Right.
Things. And we don't hear about those.
No. We just report those as routine accidents.
Exactly.
And,
but is that too much? Yeah, it is. I mean, it's an issue that has to be addressed.
We probably don't have the ability or time to get into all the changes that would be will be coming, because I think you made a comment before we went on the air here. I always say on the air. I don't know if we're on the air all the time. But the fight's already lost. You said that. That was a great quote. In other words, people who are saying, we'll never have self-driving cars.
Yeah,
you're not gonna win that fight. It's already over.
See, there's a great quote by the French writer Victor Hugo in Les Miserables. He says, "No army can stop an idea whose time has come."
Oh,
and the time for autonomous vehicles has come. And the reasons are not just to minimize the number of fatalities, but also minimize the fatalities and the issues due to human errors. We could have a much better mean of transporting, and also people don't talk about the commute times. On average, we spend about in the United States 58 minutes commuting.
Of course, the big cities have lots of long commutes.
So now you have an ability to absolutely do something else. So it is inevitable. So the future is now, but the question is.
Now we've talked about the human lives, which of course probably is most pertinent or prominent, but there's so many other sweeping changes involved that it's almost boggles the mind, because you think parking. Right. We're in Peoria here, for instance, and I write stories about it, and those of us that live here know about parking decks and the need for parking, and this sort of cry about there's no, well, if you go to Chicago and what you pay to park in downtown it's considerable.
Right.
This will all change. I mean, at some point. We're not saying it's going to be tomorrow.
Right.
But that whole idea of building houses for cars, which is a parking deck, they won't need to do that.
Well, or
at least not in the downtown.
And so the question is, how is the introduction of autonomous vehicles going to be? And so when we look at you and I discussed this graph associated with the levels of automation, and I think that is a great depiction of what is needed to make sure we understand those levels. So the Society of Automotive Engineers has set through this guideline J3016 levels of automation from 0 to 5. Level 0, which is completely manual, Ford Model T, and that's how
my
I
car.
started my and level 5 is exactly 100% autonomy, means no human intervention whatsoever. When is that going to happen? I don't know. I mean, my conjecture could be maybe 2025 or something like that. There is the whole messy middle, because you have certain levels of automated features, and some of them may require human intervention at some point, and so that is still being kind of fuzzy. But when it comes to looking at culpability of who is at fault in these levels, I mean, obviously at level 0,
we've got lawyers listening, so they want to know about.
They want to know about that, and so clearly the driver is 100% at fault. You're manually you're manually driving. You're that's why you need insurance and all of that. At level 5, you have no control. So the manufacturer will kind of bear the burden of that because of that. So is there a need to sell a car? Because now the car will have this embedded insurance cost associated with it. So my view is there will be some sort of maybe subscription service or a Uber type of system that will allow you to just say you leave for work at 7 o'clock in the morning, okay, and 5 minutes prior, you see this vehicle kind of coming by and picking you up, taking you to work, and then it goes and does its thing. During your vacation time, you probably need something a little larger for your family.
Well, and somebody might be listening to this and going, "Oh my goodness, that's the end of the world. I've been so attached to my car." But I'm thinking one more thing is, and I'm only speaking for the fact that I'm older. The older people, and I have my mom is 90, and I cringe thinking of her driving because she does. She lives in New Hampshire. She wants to drive to Boston to go to a show. How much better it would be to just, as you say, call it up. I need a ride. It's there. I get in, go out.
Right.
Rather than I'm going to drive, or I'm going to get somebody else to drive who's only 88, and not to put anybody down who's that old and driving, because I know you can do it, but that's the problem.
And plus we're sharing. You see, not everyone plays by the rules. Youngsters text.
Yeah.
Some of them don't even think if they had like a couple of drinks, So
I'm fine. I can do it.
Right.
Yeah.
So and now we're sharing an infrastructure, and that's where the whole responsibility is.
One of the things, Sam, that you have brought up, and we won't delve into this at great length because I think it's something that you're still working on, is Central Illinois, right here in Peoria and then the surrounding area, is a hub of autonomous talent, knowledge. How do you describe it?
An industry. And so a lot of people don't know about the geographic location that we are in, and how much it has really contributed to the level of automation that we see worldwide. Caterpillar is selling autonomous machinery, and very, very strong, robust. We have Komatsu down by the river.
Often forgotten.
Often
right
forgotten.
There. Yeah.
And we have several small suppliers to these big companies, and they do tremendous jobs, and they have some contracts that, in fact, I talked to you about this morning, taking my robotics class to a field trip where we saw some applications that are mind-boggling. In fact, some of my students were
right here in the Peoria area.
In the Peoria area. So when you think about those, and the success of these companies is due to the fact that they have very, very particular applications, but their applications are not in a public place. Most of the mines are private.
Right.
Most of the construction
People don't see
sites are closed up during the construction phase, and then you have some ag applications, and precision agriculture
Not
is
that
now
far from John Deere.
That's right,
Yeah.
and CNH. Is precision agriculture is going to be the norm because it's so efficient, and so when it comes to the geographic location, we are really privileged. The question is, how can we take advantage of that to have a talented people able to really see what's happening, and also these companies able to take advantage of local talent by creating certain settings and maybe a new curriculum that addresses the needs of this newer transformative technology.
It would almost appear to be perfect timing too, because for this area, here you are at Bradley, formerly of Caterpillar, and what is going on right now on the hilltop is the construction of a engineering business, which the two coming together.
Right.
Well, this is exactly what we're talking about.
Yes.
Plus, this area has gone through Peoria Next, which was a consortium of, well, I think it was 15 to 20 years ago, whenever that was. That's kind of fallen by the wayside now, but that's a lesson learned that we could maybe use again in the autonomous era.
That's right. That's right. And so the advantages are actually on both sides when it comes to looking at ahead of what is a academic institution able to provide, especially in the field that is having a huge gap in talent. The other thing is some of the engineers currently in the workforce may need some retraining, apprenticeship, because like I said, robotics is very, very transformative, and it's not just a matter of knowing the current subject matters like mechanical, electrical, and other types of engineering disciplines, but they're very, very particular in addressing some of the questions that the current industry is supplying to the world. So they may need to kind of visit.
And that would be a part of
that would be a part of
something
something that could make sense if we get together.
Now, in that respect, do you see that as a major problem doing that, or is that something you see once the word is out there, you'll have some players at the table?
You're talking about
the consortium,
creating a consortium. Yeah. Well, everybody has to see value in what they're providing.
Okay.
You see, and when they see that, I think they have no choice but really taking advantage of what the consortium can provide. For instance, when it comes to autonomous vehicles and autonomous machinery in general, the technologies deep down are very, very, very similar because you need to position yourself. And most of them use GPS augmented techniques to locate yourself with maps and all of that. And you need perception. And perception is the ability of this robotic system or the robot to knows about its surroundings. Is that an obstacle that I can go through? Is this a navigable path? Or do I need to really swerve and do this? So the techniques are exactly the same. You mentioned a robotic surgical process that is happening right here in town. And so when you look at some of the technologies, you're like, oh, that is very, very similar to what many companies are using to train operators in this in the simulator. And so if all of these companies are spending a lot of dollars to test and retest a third-party supplied piece of hardware, why not do it in a local center at a fraction of the cost and get all that data? The data is actually generic, very, very useful, but it's got to be done to understand the capabilities and the applications. So they would concentrate on something that is proper to them.
And you don't have to elaborate, because I know these things are still going on, sort of ongoing conversations and discussions. But the state of Illinois is probably in need of moving a little bit on autonomous driving.
That's right.
Because other states are, well, you said 10 or some states are...
Yeah, about a dozen.
Have already got test tracks and things.
There is, two things. Oh, good. There is a legislation regarding allowing autonomous vehicles on roads in certain states, Florida, California, Nevada, just to name it, Washington, D.C., just to name a few, as long as you have a person behind the steering wheel responsible for what happens, safeguarding, and this person is well trained and all of that. So what does Illinois have to gain by allowing that? Well, it's a huge amount of data that is going, because using artificial intelligence algorithms and machine learning, we are capable of building a much deeper knowledge of the world and how we could accommodate the deployment of an autonomous vehicle in an uncertain world by learning from it. So Illinois is in position because the autonomous vehicles will happen. It's just a question of when. And therefore, they have to address the question is, how much investment do I need to do for these autonomous vehicles? And so the more, I mean, if we wait too long, we are missing out on valuable data that would tell us, oh, yes, those lanes are not well marked. However, they're navigable with this system.
Right.
And so they could make good decisions on how much investments and how much changes and other regulations.
It's easy to beat up on Illinois because of the debts that the state has incurred and the infighting that goes on in the legislature, and you know, it's a story that we write about all the time, and other media does as well. And I think a lot of people have talked about, you know, Illinois is not business friendly. Illinois' taxes are too high, and you know, we don't want to get off on a governor versus the head of the legislature issue, but Illinois does have a lot of things going for it. The geographical location,
Right.
the fact Chicago is transportation center of the country,
That's right.
airports and so forth and so on. So it does make sense for Illinois to wake up and go, yes, we need to be involved with autonomous driving.
And the geographic location that we're in is absolutely, I mean, fantastic. Just look around and see how much industry is involving in those, and also supporting industries. We don't talk too much about what Caterpillar has learned, for example, from the distribution center. It's a huge logistics. So there is a lot of kind of peripheral type of applications that could make the deployment of autonomous vehicles much safer if we take advantage and learn from the what has happened right here in Illinois. And I strongly believe that Illinois could be in a position to absolutely lead the nation when it comes to creating a setting that is adequate for autonomous vehicles in every state.
We've mentioned Caterpillar and John Deere and Komatsu and hospitals and Bradley, U of I. I mean, there's so many entities, community colleges, ICC. There's another player out there whose world's, well, I won't say the world's about to change. The world's probably ever changing. State Farm. You know, I don't know how much auto insurance means to that company. I got a feeling it's fairly good size. That's likely to be reorganized. And you mentioned going from the person behind the wheel to the manufacturer.
Right.
And that will, as you said, it could be 20, 25 years or 5 years, who knows. But they would be an interested party as well, I would presume.
Yeah, and so it's very difficult to kind of look ahead and see what's going to happen to them. But I think if we don't look ahead and kind of look at the levels of automation and what it means to be at level 5 and what it means to be an insurance agency, well, it brings many questions. So in my mind, you know, automotive industries do not have that skill, okay, or the performance that an insurance company has built over the years, and so they probably, in my mind, contract out with these companies to create the most efficient way of building insurance within the cost of the car.
I think because I tend towards the trivial in my mind, and I just thought of another thing that will need to be thought about once we get into the autonomous driving stage, and that is how much revenue does a community, does a town or county get from speeding tickets? Well, are you going to be ticketing the robotic cars? I mean, because I tell you what, it was a few years ago. Now, my son had just turned, I think, well, he was at driving age, 17, 18. I can't remember how old he was. But I went with him. He got a ticket in Tazewell County in driving. So we had to go to the Pekin Courthouse to pay the ticket. I went with him because I'd been there, you know, for the paper, and I thought, I'll show you where it is. And when we get up there, all these people are waiting to pay not a parking ticket, a speeding ticket. And I'm counting the amount of revenue that's being made. Well, now you got to replace that revenue, folks. You better be thinking about it.
That's right, and that's a tough one, especially when you become really relying on that as a source of revenue. Then you're in trouble, I think. But the efficiency gains would outweigh what the losses, because it'll be much safer. Can you imagine how much we are actually losing in every time there's an accident? So how many people are deployed you know,
Right.
the fire.
Right.
That.
The
And
right.
so
all the people that go to the scene. Yeah.
that's right. So really, is it a good thing to minimize traffic violations? So absolutely is a good thing. Even if you ask legislators, it's like, well, you know, it is not meant
Right.
to be a source of revenue. It's just a penalty if you actually are not following the rules.
Right.
And a lot of
Safety,
people
yeah.
safety for their own. And a lot of people are not following the rules, and so they get in trouble, and we don't want them to get in trouble. That's my perception. And so I think will be way more efficient.
Well, and you talk about efficiency, and of course this is built in. I think you alluded to it when you talked about commuting. The fact that person now in an age when many people work at home, freelance, you know, that's the wave of the future. You're gonna be able to do that now as you travel. You know, you're not being constrained by the driving the car
Right.
in whatever the weather is, because that's another factor. You know,
Huge.
That you know we're gonna have, and that's you know that's it just opens the mind to so many things that are going to change once this thing happens. But before we get there, Illinois needs to get busy. Central Illinois has a huge opportunity.
Absolutely, and I think the more we wait, the more we're missing out. It's no longer big versus small. It's really who is fast enough to adopt what makes sense.
And to hear you say, and you've got the credentials, Caterpillar, autonomous driving, been to you know a lot of the players around the country, around the world. This man. I'll contact him over the summer, and he's either in Spain or England or wherever it is. He's not over across the river. So you travel widely, and you're seeing the same story in other countries.
Absolutely the same story. Yeah. And some of the actually issues that kind of might interest you particularly is this level of privacy. That comes with autonomous vehicles, and so it will be an issue, but it's something that you have to think about and live with.
It's all part of that consortium needs to look at that too.
But could create some layers actually to minimize. Now again, if you're using Facebook, you know what you are what you are sharing, you know. So I mean, you change the website, and all of a sudden you see a pop-up regarding that. So the same is going to be with autonomous vehicles when you are actually asking for this going to work or going to so it's no longer going to be private, but it's almost not very private today.
Well, I was going to say we're moving on that track
because you have your cell phone and you have.
Here I am on vacation in Virginia. You know, look at me. I'm on this slide, and and it's who cares? But no, that's another issue. Well, Sam, we're gonna cut it short here because there's so much to talk about. But we got to get this thing moving. You got to get it moving, and others, because this is a great opportunity for this area. I mean, because I think sometimes we get caught up, and of course we feed the beast because we're in the media, but Caterpillar, and you know this from having had such a great ties with the company, their move to Deerfield, the headquarters thing, that has clearly bothered Peoria, because now somebody from outside the area will look in and say, well, apparently, you people didn't please Peoria. You didn't please Caterpillar. They left on you after 75 years or 90 years or whatever it was. And, you can explain, well, no, wait a minute, they're still here and they're doing this and doing that. But it still registers outside. So we need a win. Yeah. We need to move beyond that. And this could be this would be world impact.
I hope so, and I think it's about time. And then obviously I cannot speak for Caterpillar.
No, we're not trying to put them on the spot.
I think they've been fantastic for the town, and they're here, and I'm sure they will provide a huge amount of assistance, and they absolutely have a need in retraining some of the engineers, facing some of the realities that we currently face in some of the applications that did not require as much knowledge in robotics, machine learning, artificial intelligence, and so on.
Well, I know there's been a great relationship between Cat and Bradley.
Right.
For years. That goes on.
Oh, yeah.
And this could be just more of the same. So,
Right.
well, Sam, you got to come back. We got to have you come back.
Thank you,
and
Steve.
keep us abreast, because this thing is moving way beyond my ability to understand it. So we'll have to listen to folks. This is Sam Kherat, a robotics professor at Bradley University. And we'll want to thank Matt Dayhoff, who burst in here and is at the controls as always. And hey, we'll see you next time on Tarter Source.